Hi, good afternoon. This is Sherman Crancer, Partner Channel Development Manager for Microsoft. I want to say thank you very much for joining us today. Today we're going to be going over Project LeadGen and the power of business intelligence. So today, the agenda is going to be pretty simple. We're going into partner profitability and the way that our partners can actually earn revenue using Power BI, the power of business intelligence. So we're going to kind of go into, what is Power BI? We're actually going to go through a slide deck of, what it is and how to sell it. We're going to talk about how you can drive data insights with business intelligence. We're going to look at the market opportunity that is out there currently right now. And then we're going to get into the partner opportunity and talking about how to maximize your profitability. Last, we're going to go into sales tactics, selling to many as opposed to selling to one. And lastly, we're going to talk about how to sell Power BI. I think a lot of the partners that are joining this today have a lot of questions about Power BI and have a lot of questions about a lot of the different things that we do on a daily basis that will help us, increase revenues. They like to hear about, different opportunities. However, a lot of times partners can be kind of confused about, well, this is a great product. However, how am I going to use this to actually, increase margins or differentiate myself? And that's really kind of the purpose of these calls with the partner profitability calls, is to kind of talk about each individual, piece. So Power BI really kind of lays in with Azure. Right, because we're going to be talking about hybrid cloud solutions, and if you listened to the last broadcast, you heard about Azure and hybrid applications. Right, this is an incredible new product that is available out there that I really believe, I think, is a game changer, considering what it really can offer you and how things can be put together. Right, as well as really just to differentiate yourself from the competition. So that's what's going to be on the agenda today. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to learn all about Power BI. We're going to learn all about how to sell it, some individual sales tactics, and lastly, how are we going to do this? So let's move into it. What are really the challenges of business intelligence, right? And we see that right now. And when we polled, 100 different, IT professionals out there, as well as end users or business analysts, some of the challenges that they had were, 59% of them, 59% of the people that we polled all thought that, they had the lack of skills or knowledge to correctly pull the data out and utilize it to their advantage. 41% of them thought that there was, a lack of integration with existing tools out there. So they're kind of sitting there thinking, gosh, I know I need to do this. We've heard about the terminology of a data scientist, right? We also know that, there's a lot of different data that comes out, of running a business, regardless if it's, from your operations or your sales and marketing, finance. However, where are all these bits of data actually residing, and how do you actually, pull the right information out to be able to get what you need? And lastly, 37% of them, didn't quite, think that security and then being able to manage all of it was there for them. So, the first thing to kind of understand is kind of, what is the evolution of business intelligence? And it's kind of gone through a lot, lately. And what we're going to start off with here is we're going to talk about the IT pro. And this is the person that's kind of sitting inside a, big corporation. And let's go ahead and set the stage, what types of corporations actually put this kind of business intelligence together. And that was really, for the large enterprise type of thing. And they'd have a team and they'd have their IT pro. So, there's a growing demand, really. And what IT is trying to do is keep up with that growing demand for the business intelligence from all the data. So what are they doing? They're basically, first, the IT pro is grabbing and harvesting that existing data that comes from those line of business applications or the data marts, right? As well as the different files. So they're taking all of that information and they're harvesting it, right? From all the different, sales and operations and marketing and finance. And then they're taking that data and they're staging it. So after they grab all of it, they stage it, and where are they putting it? They're putting it into these, big analysis cubes or data warehouses. And at that point, when they've been able to harvest and then, stage the data, they're going to be coming up with, provisioning, analysis, and reports and dashboards and scorecards. And that ultimately gets over to the right-hand side, which you see as the end user, right? Because they're asking for this information. So that's kind of how, it has been in the past. And they're provisioning the reports and dashboards and scorecards to kind of, meet that end user demand. However, what we're finding is that the output and the need for this data is really, outpacing the IT and what the end users, what they can demand, right on the moment, right? And these IT pros are sitting there and thinking, well, our data is secure. I've got to bring it from one location to another location. I got to stage it and then come together. But these end users saying, no, I need the intelligence now. And so what are they doing? They're actually, end users in these environments are actually going through, finding their own spreadsheets. They're taking their own Excel data sheets, as well as going to niche organizations that are actually providing this type of business intelligence. So they're grabbing their stuff. However, the problem with that is that it rapidly breaks down the barriers of control with the self-service BI, because the IT user is thinking this is our company's data, right? But the end user is saying, well, I need that intelligence now. So we're having kind of a problem, kind of a breakdown in the control of the data, the security, the managing, the ability to replicate and push, right? So you're seeing that, and right now there's a big movement in the industry where end users need it faster and quicker, right? So really, is it possible to control both the need, right, and the need for having it controlled by the IT pro, as well as the need for having that data correctly? Now, if we kind of change gears a little bit, you kind of look at the evolution of BI, and in that environment, the IT pro they're using Oracle and IBM and SAP to actually come up with that data. That's within corporate BI. And now the end users are saying, something, we don't need something that big. We can go ahead and do that. However, it's becoming a big problem. So as you see it, with Oracle, IBM, and SAP, they dominate the corporate BI side, but they don't dominate the self-service business intelligence side. So that's where kind of Microsoft comes in, is that we basically try to put together a combination where you can take corporate business intelligence, you can take the self-service end users and actually put them together and actually collaborate. And that's kind of where we're seeing the evolution, is not just having it all controlled with one data source, right, or on-premise source, but we're actually saying, well, hey, how can we utilize both tools and put them together? And the reality is that most organizations don't have that $1 million or $500,000 to go and spend on one of the top 3 organizations that we mentioned putting in their ERP software. Next question comes into is why use business intelligence? Well, why should we use it? And I would say that if you take a look at the 3 big ones that we had talked about earlier, Oracle, IBM, and SAP, they dominated that space for a long time. But look at all these different niche startups that are coming out. And if you look at the Magic Quadrant, it really puts in light, where Microsoft really is, and that talks about, our envisioning, right, depending on the quadrant you're at, and where we think we're going to be. Where possibly we're actually going to be. And the nice thing is that, Microsoft is in the top, right-hand quadrant, understanding that, we need to be the leader in business intelligence and analytics, right? And that's what's really important. So moving forward, powerful, familiar BI tools for everyone. That's kind of like the mantra that's kind of is out there. And there's self-service BI, right? But there's corporate BI, and then there's a use of advanced analytics. And what we're talking about with advanced analytics, we're talking about using artificial intelligence to actually be able to forecast 6 to 8 months out using current data and current trends that are there. So one of the nice things with the Microsoft Business Intelligence platform is that you're able to scale and manage data, from your corporate BI side, but also empower the end user, right, with the self-service, business intelligence using the Microsoft Office 365, and that in turn uncovers a lot deeper insight and predictable analysis with the advanced analytics. So one of the neat things there is using Power BI. It's okay, now we can pull in all different types of data and use Office 365 to share and collaborate. And that's what I think is really important in today's marketplace is, can we produce, powerful insight or powerful tools that everyone can use, not just something that's controlled by one department that is sitting there. And not to mention, thinking about how do we empower our customers to really take a look at their day-to-day operations and be able to say, gosh, well, I need to do this, or 6 months out, we're going to see a windfall in revenue, or wait a minute, 6 months out, we better plan for disaster because we have some serious issues that are coming along down the pipeline, right? And that could be sales, marketing, and data. With Power BI in the Microsoft environment, one of the things that is a big need right now is really being able to connect the data across on-prem, cloud, as well as have a mobility device. And what we mean by that is a lot of organizations are going to be looking about, I want control of my on-premise data. I don't want to put everything in the cloud, right? And we talked about this in our previous hybrid, infrastructure as a service idea, that where most companies are having a hybrid type of environment. Well, if you have a SQL database and you have a lot of, really important, really high secure type of data that's, on premise, you're going to want to say, okay, I want to have a little bit up in the cloud, but I really want to have it available to me real time on premise as well. So that's what's really neat about the power of business intelligence, is that you can actually connect, have your main entry point in the cloud, but then also have it on premise. And the other neat thing too is to be able to say, well, I want to be able to access it from devices anywhere in the world, right? And so that's what I think, we're driving the point down where it isn't something that you're creating a Power BI tool or a business intelligence tool that's only with data that is on-prem. Well, what if we want to pull in data that's not just on-prem, but from other cloud resources that we currently are involved with? And that could be types of accounting software that you have, or a different type of CRM that is not going to be on-premise, right? Is going to be in the cloud. But how about the ability to tie both of those types of information in together to look at the different devices? Now, what's also interesting here is to understand how Power BI can connect to all types of data. So you really have, a structured type of environment. And what is structured? Structured is going to be something like a CRM that you have, right? Let's say you're managing a Salesforce marketing operations and using it through a customer relationship manager. That's structured data. When data is put in there, you can grab that. So imagine you're taking that and the ability to pair that with unstructured data that might be data that are in workbooks or in your Excel files, and then take that and combine that with streaming data that is not on premise, but is maybe in the cloud elsewhere. And that really allows you, within this business intelligence environment using Microsoft BI, that you have access to the data, big and small, and combine and manage everything in one portal. Utilizing that, I think we have 4 bullet points, and one is, search, access, shape, internal and external data. And we kind of talked about the structured, and streaming and unstructured. We talked about combining the different data types, and then the easy access is after you've been able to put those all together, you can easily access it really from any device. One of the greatest things that I think is just incredible to think about is the actual the dashboard. And I've seen a lot of different presentations using real-time actual subjects and seeing a dashboard that was actually live. And one of the neat things to think about is, imagine if you had a dashboard in front of you, or you were a CEO, right, chief executive officer of a company, and you have, a C-suite of executives, but you also have vice president of sales, chief financial officer. All these different departments are affecting your business, right, on a daily basis, and you're the CEO, and having a command in the past would basically be having a lot of meetings with a lot of the different executives that are in your office. However, one of the great things about having Power BI and a dashboard is that you can see real-time information that's happening at a moment's notice. And so, the ability to have it, on your tablet when you were to wake up in the morning and say, well, how's my business doing? Is there any material change that has happened that's going to affect, a decision that I might have to make, moving forward? You can also, within the dashboard, ask questions about the data using natural language queries. So literally, it's again, what are the sales going to be happening in the next 6 months? Or what is the forecasted revenue targets for the next, 3 months? Or please open up this, show me the in order, the number of orders we've had for product A, B, C, or D. Then you can take that and drill into it. You can say, okay, well, are we able to take a look at, product A and see, well, is product A seasonal? Is product A selling, 12 months out of the year? Which products are not selling? And actually see it in real time, which is just fantastic. And lastly, within the dashboard, and we'll go into that in just a little bit, it's, pinning new types of visualizations to monitor the different types of performances. As you can see here on the slide, you're looking at, the map United States, a bunch of different bar graphs, but you could change those, interact those, and pin them in, as well as actually tie those to our current connectors that are already available for you, literally in seconds. So what's really in Power BI, and why, how are we going to utilize this to our advantage? And the first thing is, is BI sites. So you can basically create a collaborative type of BI site, that has all different types of information for different users that are within your organization, whether internally or externally. And then next you have, shared queries, right? And that's using, from the team using Power Query, which is one of the greatest tools available throughout the Microsoft product stack. And then, you're looking at the data refresh. And what data refresh is here is now, okay, now it's looking at this slide here, you notice that you have an on-premise server, as well as you have, cloud access to, Power BI for Office 365, and you have an Excel workbook. But one of the neat and powerful options here is that you can schedule the data refresh, or you can have it real time. You can, push it forward, push it backwards, really kind of do a lot, really set it up to the time frame that's really important to you and to your client, right? And that's where I think it's really important as a partner, looking at Power BI and how you're going to go ahead and sell it is understanding, what are some of the key psychological triggers that might be happening within your client, and data refresh might be one of them. They have SQL servers, right, at their location, but they also, typically had to have their employees actually connect in, like VPN connection. However, within this Power BI tool, they're actually using a different format and different connection where it keeps everything up to date, and they schedule the refreshes for everybody. Next is maintaining a data catalog. And what that means, and for the partner and understanding this, because this is part of the partner profitability scenario, really is being able to search for public data, corporate data, and shared queries. And what does that mean? Well, you could have a list of different departments that all have access, or they all create separate reports, right, that are all very important to the CFO or the CEO or the different people in their organization, right? Well, what if you're able to warehouse it all? Put it in one container per se, and that's where the beauty of this whole power of business intelligence is saying, okay, I want to maintain a catalog of all the different types of query and search results, for my my employees to be able to create incredible Power BI portals, right, or Power BI interfaces, and that's pretty neat, because some people are going to have on-premise Excel worksheets, and other departments are going to have access to their accounting software and CRM, but having a catalog where your internal department heads can actually say, gosh, finance can say, well, I wonder what the T&E expenses were for the past 6 months, and can we take a look at that, cross-reference that against the sales and marketing, and actually find some great information out of there to possibly plan for the next 3 to 5 years. Moving on, connecting with mobile devices. This is really important. With the advent of mobile devices, bring your own device, the BYOD scenario, where companies are more and more interested in allowing their employees to do that. But being able to have mobile access is really something, and that's utilizing their tablets or their cell phones, but being able to see that, I think it's the most powerful thing. I think that if I was a CEO at an organization and I had all these different types of things going on, instead of waiting for me to get in the office, right, the first thing I would do is actually open up my Power BI portal. First thing I would do in the morning, just take a look at that. I might even do that before I read a newspaper. I don't know, some people are different. But lastly, using Excel and Power View within your mobile access is really going to enlighten the information that you can pull. And from a partner's perspective, being able to provide this to your clients separates yourself out from the rest of the partners out there. If you're an MSP right now, but and you're providing a whole list of different types of services. Now imagine if you could go in and talk about business intelligence, instead of talking about ripping and replacing network components, right? Imagine if you're being put in a situation where you're bidding on several different contracts, but now you're saying, well, hey, hold on a second. Before we bid on this rip and replace scenario, let me talk to you about the power of business intelligence, and moving forward, you can actually also put in the natural language queries, and this is we kind of talked a little bit about that earlier, but literally, if you look at the top left-hand corner where it says Q&A, you can actually ask a question, and in natural language, not in the language where the IT pro, as we talked about earlier, is the only one that understands that stuff. You basically can, your client can basically ask any type of natural language to get that, those analytics of that information. So we really look at Power BI as really the powerful new way to work with your data. And I think there's two things of it, right? And one is analyze in Excel. It's amazing how many people, 96% of all business users use Microsoft Office in the world. 96, that's a pretty good number. So, now in Excel, right, you're going to be able to search, access, and transform your public and internal data sources with the Power Query piece of it. And then you're going to be able to analyze that with Power Pivot. And if you don't understand how to utilize Power Pivot, we can point you to the Microsoft Virtual Academy and get some. I would suggest that you learn up a little bit of that. But Power Pivot is an amazing tool. And then lastly, you can visualize by building these Power Views and Power Maps that are going to map to all the different types of information. But if you add that with Office 365, now this is where the game changer is now you can collaborate. Okay, it's not just the data that's warehoused internally, okay, or within one department group. You're actually being able to share the data between the different work groups. You can, ask questions, with the language query, natural language query. And lastly, you can get the mobile access that everyone needs. So now, instead of just, being in a data warehouse with the IT pros, now it's okay. Now I can use Office 365, I can use Power BI, and I can actually, put those two things together. So you're basically, it's scalable, it's manageable, and it's trusted. So basically, everyone can work with the data that's warehoused in your data centers and working together. So look at this. If you look at SelfService BI, if you're not this big, huge organization, right? You're not the company who has Oracle and SAP or IBM. You're looking at SelfService BI. So, we know that 1 billion users right now use Microsoft Excel. And, as a partner, helping them understand how to discover, how to analyze, and how to visualize is really important, but also being able to collaborate, because we also know 1 in 4 enterprise customers have Office 365 right now. So the powerful insights for the end user, it's okay, great. I can actually create a lot of this stuff on my own and come together and be able to provide great analytics and reports, for, their bosses or whatnot. But, on that side of it, we see they can share and they can ask questions and they, provide the mobility piece of it. All right, so let's move into the next thing is how to utilize Power BI and increase sales. So this isn't necessarily from the partner's perspective, but you could use it as a partner. And I would suggest that you do, because it's all about planning. And we'll talk about that in the sales strategy here in a little bit. But what we're hopefully utilizing this part of the explanation about is really, it really comes down to how can we visualize this to be able to put this in the mind of the customer, how they can increase sales. So if you look at this, there's new ways to look at it, looking at your data, whether you want to look at your funnels, your gauges, you can do a tree map, combo mart, fill map, and you take the data that's already currently coming in and, you put it, in a rich visual format that you as a partner could provide to your C-level executive, to the vice president of sales, right? Vice president of marketing. But it's really utilizing data, but visualizing it, in real time. And if you actually add the advanced analytics piece of this, if you actually add the business intelligence side of it, now you're really talking about how do you increase sales? Because, utilizing the business intelligence aspect of Power BI, you can now forecast, up to 6 months out. And that has a lot to do with, the types of sales that are coming in. So if you're a company, and now kind of figuring out how you would look at this, if your organization and you had X amount of sales per month, let's say you had 20 sales per month and they averaged, $500,000 a sale. But now what happens if you end up having a spike, let's say the next month to 33 deals per month, right? And now your average sales all of a sudden in the 750 because you popped a big one, that was $1.2 million, right? Well, that changes everything over the next 6 months. So now imagine being able to visualize that data and be able to say, oh, okay, we foresee a large amount of revenue, but also an influx in projects coming up. We may need to staff up, some of these other resources, and thank you, to the partner for helping me understand how to get this stuff in real time. So, visualizing your data in different ways is really important. That's kind of how, we're putting this together for the partner. And, moving into the next point right here is really a lot of partners and a lot of niche companies and a lot of big organizations, like we mentioned in the very beginning, they're based on their data and their data alone. The differentiator here with Power BI is we already have these connectors already configured for you, so you literally just out of the box. Software as a service connector, you literally open up your portal and you click and drag, these different orders. So if your client has, Dynamics Marketing, has Dynamics CRM Online, a SendGrid, Zendesk, they use Marketo, GitHub, or even Salesforce. To be frank with you, it's super simple to pull in that data and actually create a dashboard. I was interested myself in the past about how difficult was this? And so I looked at it, I'm like, I don't know. So I decided to learn about it. And I went and I took series 100 and series 200. And there's 3, 4, and 5 that you can get on channel 9. And I tell you something, after series 200, I was actually able to create my own Power BI portal for myself, utilizing some of the information that I was being able to pull from many different departments here at Microsoft. It's really incredibly simple and actually allows you as a partner to really, start incorporating a new product into your business line, right? Very simply and very quickly, and really differentiate yourself from your competition. All right, now this is a really important piece, and I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, is connecting live to on-premise data. So in the past, you had to have a secure session, right? You had a VPN, and a lot of times the data was hard to get. Was it refreshable? Did you have access to it? Did you need permissions to get into it? So using our SQL Server analysis services, now you can actually live connect into the on-premise data cube. So using a live dashboard exploration, you can basically optimize the query performance for interactive exploration of data. And that's really the game changer here, is that not only do you have your information in the cloud, but you're actually able to live connect securely into your SQL database. I think that in alone is an absolute game changer. I think we really covered the idea of all these different types of data, but Excel is the one thing that I think is really something we should keep just talking over and over again, and saying how really how important it is. And with Power BI, you can share a lot of the data and the insights that you have. I think there's a lot of situations where companies have many different people producing many different Excel format shots, right? Excel deals, and being able to create this warehouse or catalog of services, catalog of reports, and basically publishing all of your workbooks to Power BI is really, I think, is a game changer once again in the industry, because we know that Microsoft provides Excel, Microsoft provides the business intelligence here, and it all works together, it all connects. So having collaboration, right? Somebody over here in this department has a bunch of different Excel workbooks and operations and sales, really gives that ability to find that information we kind of talked about earlier, like what happens in 6 months if something happens. Moving into the next slide, you're going to talk a little bit about the Power BI designer, and this is really the fun part about it. As a partner, you're thinking to yourself, okay, how do I do this, right? Well, we have Power BI Designer, which basically it's a desktop companion for you to use within the Power BI service. So, as a partner, your profitability in this is really saying, okay, I'm going to create a specific portal, right, for my client, and I'm going to manage it, right? And using the designer, you can connect and share and visualize all these different connection ports, and then effortlessly publish the visual reports to all the different users in your workspace, right? Within your corporate environment. From the partner's perspective, now think about this: you can easily create, theoretically, your own IP, right? Because if you're working in a vertical market or a vertical industry, you're thinking to yourself, okay, great, I got to figure this out. How do I, for healthcare or for medical, right? I'm going to go ahead and put together a basic report that I'm going to be able to maybe replicate for many different organizations within that industry. And I think that's kind of it's really a neat thing, considering the ease of use of this program, for our partners to be able to create IP is just second to none. But I think lastly, we kind of talked about this several times. It's really about staying connected, staying connected from any device, anywhere. And, we're a leader in creating, native apps, for iPad and iPhone and for all of our Windows devices. And, you can, be connected where you have, the alerts that are being sent to you from like a material change in business intelligence. And lastly, you can share and collaborate with your colleagues. And, if you're connected, if you're a CEO that is at home in the morning and finds out a material change has happened, you can act on it right away. If you're an account executive or director of marketing or sales or operations, and something happens while you're attending a conference, but you have your Power BI portal in front of you, wow, you have the insights and really a command of your business. So that's really, what really, Power BI, really is. And hopefully I've been able to get a good chance to explain to you, from the evolution piece of it, right? And how it was and how it is now and how the users are demanding for that information as quickly as possible, to the partner opportunity of understanding, what comes with Power BI and how that could apply to psychological triggers that your clients may or may not have. Becoming a thought leader is where you become different, right? Bringing ideas to your clients is where you become different. If you're just bringing a proposal to rip and replace, to be a VAR, right? How are you different? But now if you utilize a program that is extremely easy to use, right? And actually create something behind that, now you become a thought leader. And that's where you excel. That's where you change. That's where you differ. And that's where you grow. All right, so with that last thought, go to powerbi.com. You can download your own free trial. When you're talking about the advanced analytics, the piece of the artificial intelligence, that's on a monthly charge. But I would seriously suggest you break it down for yourself. You do a couple quick, easy, connections. Create your own, PowerPoint tool for yourself first. If you use it, you know it. It'd be much easier to go ahead and put it together. All right, so let's move into the partner profitability scenario here, right? Okay, what is the opportunity for the partner, right? So what we want you to do is look at a couple very significant numbers, and what we're looking at, big data and analytics services spend for 2014 was 24%, right? And we're seeing it grow incredibly year over year over year over year. And it's looking at a 30% growth average over the next 3 years, reaching a total market size of $114 billion by 2018. That's what's really important to understand. I think some insights to maximize your profitability. Start with identifying, and so I don't read the slide here. Start with identifying, what are the things that can be generated by BI? What's the value that you can bring to the table that you can generate? And I think that has to do with command of the business. If you're talking about, I can help you have a better command of your business, that's a game changer. That's different, right? That's different than saying, hey, I can come and rip and replace. I can manage your services, your environment for X amount of dollars. Look to try to combine with SharePoint, right? Because SharePoint is very malleable. Combine it with SharePoint and see if you can find ways to provide for more optimal efficiencies, and then fold in your managed services or your own IP. So if you're looking at project services, this is the same thing that we go over and over again, the 3 different pillars. So on the project services side, we're looking at 35% margins, and if you're putting together a bundle, you're going to be talking about the cloud readiness assessment, right? Let's talk about the Azure hybrid environment. That's something that you can utilize. You can talk about solution analytics, scope and design. You can create something on a project base where you come in and be a thought leader, but you're just doing something on project base. You can talk about data cache construction, training, user experience consulting, those types of things. But we have to be careful with this because you really only see, a 35% margin. However, the average revenue on these things is $50,000 to $150,000. So that's much different than selling just an Office 365 SKU because it's a project. It's something that you're doing, and it could take a long time, right? And it could be a combination of project and the next thing. But the idea just behind a one-time project per se, it might be some pretty good margin. You might see something that's, oh, this is great. However, what I really want you to think about is, okay, how do I get to the next level? And that's become, tying in managed services. So if you start with the project base and you talk about, hey, I'm going to help you on this side, I think I can get you, 35% margins. As you start folding in managed services, security scans, performance monitoring on that data. Okay, now this is on a monthly basis, right? Troubleshooting, reports and view adjustments. Now it's a managed play, and that's different. And it's not a managed play with managed services per se, like a general managed services provider out there, right? You're not providing everything to them, but what you're doing is you're managing this data that you created, this IP, this power, this Power BI portal. So you're providing them with a monthly fee, right, to manage all this for them, right? And within USSMB, you're having clients from 0 to 500 now, and that's what's just a beautiful thing, because they do have a lot of different departments, or they can be so small that they don't have this. But you bringing the idea of, hey, I'm going to show you this project first. This is going to be awesome. Now we're going to get into managed services. But really where the money really is really in packaged IP. Okay, so now what does that mean? So it's creating these BI portals that we've been talking about all the whole time, with all these different features. But as a partner, where it becomes extremely profitable for you is creating a portal, okay, that has specific lines of business analytics, okay, but is tied on a repeatable process within a vertical market. Okay, so you're going to have maybe query tools that attach to their sales and marketing and HIPAA compliance regulations, or something to do with the statutory requirements. But that's where we see the highest profit margins, and you're looking at a 65%, and then you're looking at the average revenue over there, and it's getting smaller print, $15,000 to $50,000 on a monthly basis, right? So one thing I will, before we move on into the sales aspect, a lot of our partners are missing this big, huge opportunity, and that's training. Okay. Train. And what does it mean by train? It's not like telling them, okay, click here, click there. Train the customer on the idea that they can get so much more. They can get so much more from utilizing some of these great tools, right? They can differentiate themselves from their competition because they have a better command of their overall business. When you talk in those terms, things open up. Right, because you're talking and you're using the psychological triggers, and really, what business is there that's out there that is designed to fail? They're usually designed to succeed. Some fail because they can't succeed; they don't do the right things. However, every time a business is open, and if it's generating revenue, the idea is to succeed. So if you can help those business owners or those departments figure out ways to capitalize on their data and capitalize on what they're doing, now you're really differentiating yourself, and you're putting yourself in a position where you're like an Oracle, an SAP, or an IBM. You're providing a service that, in a lot of regards, it's very difficult to move away from. All right. Power BI, partner profitability. Let's change the gears here. Let's take a step back. Got a lot of information we talked about. Let's talk about some sales tactics here. And really, what I want to get into is the selling to many instead of selling to one. It's really important to understand this. And we utilize this partner profitability call to help the partners not only understand this opportunity within a specific sales, specific product, and we're in our Azure stack right now, but let's talk about how you can control some of the things that are near and dear to your own self, and that's things that happen to you on a daily basis. So let's talk about this. So what are the issues? What are the issues right now for most partners in the field? And I'll tell you, one of the issues that I see, and I even saw this as a partner, is too many partners are focused on selling one-on-one. Okay, they're hoping, they're praying, they're hoping that they're going to get word of mouth and referrals. And I think that if we are all honest with ourselves and honest with our business, and if you're struggling with your business, I would imagine that you're hoping a lot. You're not really planning for disaster of no sales in a month, right? But the issue for most partners is that they are looking at sales in a wildly different way than most professional salespeople do. Okay, we have to understand this. Most partners are experts in technology, and they understand it. They understand how to network and make things work together. However, sales has never been the super strong point. Every now and again, you find the hybrid. You find these people that are in sales and they understand it. But the next thing is really the planning for disaster. And what I mean by that is are you really looking at your everyday sales? Are you really looking at your monthly sales, your yearly sales, your 6-month sales? Are you looking at trends? Are you constantly thinking to yourself, how can I, be more successful? And that really is planning. And I think, in planning on how you can get in front, and this is where we're going with this whole thing, is get in front of as many people at once as you can. Okay. If you take this one-on-one selling, this referral, or going out and shaking hands, or cold calling, right, or putting an ad in, it's extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult, and there's no way to scale. When you're doing it that way, there's no way to grow fast and grow big and put yourself in a position for having an exit strategy, right? There's no area where you can plan for tomorrow. Really, because all you're doing is worrying about today. So that's the problem with selling to one. And if you look at a couple key metrics, I've been in sales for a long time, and one of the things that I did was, as a salesperson, in telecommunications, I would make cold calls, right? And the reality is, you can make 2,000 phone calls in a month, right? So you make 100 calls a day. That's 500 calls a week, 2,000 calls in a month, and you're looking at 2 appointments a day. That's 40 appointments, right? But what 30% of those actually get to the next step, right? It's just because a lot of times they probably didn't want to see you in the very first place. So now you're down to 12, okay? And then another 30% actually gets to the proposal stage, and then you take that and hopefully you're closing 90% of those. So what does that really equate to? 3.5 deals per month. But you're killing yourself. You're blowing yourself out, and so understanding that, right, is a key driver in understanding how you can actually become successful, and it's changing your mindset, okay? And that's utilizing Microsoft Community Connections. That's what's so important, and what's so incredible about this deal is the way we have this program put together is we want to get in front of as many people as possible, right, every day. Do you want to only get in front of 5 people every month? No, we want to get in front of 100 people every month that want to hear us speak about something. A lot of partners tell me, Sherman, I don't know all this technology. And I tell them, well, you're in the industry. You should know about cybersecurity. You should have a basic understanding of search engine optimization. Why don't you? You're supposed to be the expert in your industry. You're telling me the only thing you know about is Office 365? Well, gosh, if I was a client, I wouldn't want to buy from you if that was the only thing you knew. So, using Microsoft Community Connections and our 12 webinar program using Project LeadGen it's so vital to increasing, your lead generation tactics. So now let's take a look at that, right? So we talked about the making 2,000 phone calls and getting 40 appointments and really only getting about 12 leads into your funnel. If you utilize webinar and seminar selling, you're getting 20 to 30 people at your webinar or seminar every month, right? Or every time that you have one. Now imagine if you had, 6 or 7 webinars or seminars, per month, right? Now you're looking, if we did 6, right, times 2, it's 120 leads that are coming in. That's a far different cry than having 4 leads. So stop the madness. Stop trying to do everything but actually utilize a resource or utilize an idea that's going to bring in large lead lists. And that's really what is so beautiful about the Community Connections program is that you're utilizing Microsoft's brand to provide education, right? And if you don't know about search engine optimization, it's a good thing to go up on the internet and just figure it out. Read the white papers, learn about it so you can properly show that you're a thought leader in the industry. But the reality is, let's get away from selling one-on-one and get into selling to many. And that's what's important. That's how you become successful. That's how you make the money in this business, regardless if you're selling, horseshoes or pencils or whatever you're doing. It's really the more people you get in front of, the better. The more chances and the more opportunities. Doesn't mean that you're the most successful person because you got in front of somebody. No, because you got to work on how to actually procure those and push those into actual sales and opportunities. However, if you're getting in front of 50x more than your competition, right? 50 people as opposed to their 1, I would say that you have a better opportunity to be more successful than they are. So now let's flip it. Now, okay, now we understand selling to many, selling to one, and that whole idea. So now, how do we sell Power BI? How do we get there and position this in front of a client, right? So the way that could be used here is position the idea of what can happen when you help them out. Okay, it's different. It's just positioning the idea. Okay, the idea of a command of their business, right? Pitch them on the idea of, instead of saying, well, hey, let me, I'm coming in for a proposal, an example, right? And you have 3 people that are bidding on it, and the IT person's IT professional says, yeah, we need a quote, a proposal on this network, and most MSPs are saying, oh yeah, this is not set up correctly. This is old. We got to change this. We got to change that. Blah blah blah. We got to change all these things. And instead of going in like that, how you sell Power BI is you say, well, hold on a second. Thank you very much, but let me talk to all your departments. Can I talk to your chief security officer or chief sales officer or vice president of sales? Can I talk to your marketing department? Can I talk to your finance department? Can I talk to your CEO? And when you're in those conversations, you're talking to them about, hey, for the financial officer, CFO, hey, tell me about your T&E spend for the last 3 years. What is your forecast over the next 2 years? Have you utilized Office 365, Skype for Business? If I could show you a way to reduce T&E significantly, or if I could show you a way to manage your T&E over the next 6 months and forecast against the current activity there, would that be beneficial to you? Going to the vice president of sales and saying, hey, how do you talk to your marketing department? Do you know when they bring in, marketing dollars, they're doing a campaign? How do you know when that happens and how effective that really is? Would insight into that data be fantastic to have? And then, your vice president of sales is thinking, yes, absolutely. But then you say, okay, well, thank you so much. Let me go talk to the marketing department. And you ask the chief marketing officer, hey, quick question for you. Does sales affect your numbers, right? Would you like to know in real time when there's a material change in sales due to your marketing efforts? Yes. Right, and you say, well, I think you currently have the data there, but let me talk to you about the idea of how we can all do this. And then you get to the CEO, you come around the horn, and you get to the CEO, and you say to yourself, to the CEO, hey, would you like to have a command of your business real time from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep? Not that you have to have it, but would you like to have it on a rich visual format on your iPad or your tablet or your Surface or your phone? Can I show you how to take a look at the next 6 months of what's going to happen? Because we're going to use artificial intelligence to make it happen, right? So you're positioning the idea of what can happen if you help them out. We talked about speaking to all the different departments. You want to find out those psychological triggers that they have. And we kind of went over those different things with the sales and marketing. Finance is looking to save money, right? Sales wants to increase, their number of sales. They want to be able to watch all their reps doing their activity. Operations wants to know what's happening, right? What's happening over the next 6 months? How are they going to staff up or reduce staff or headcount because of what's going on? Marketing wants to know how well their programs are doing. And we do all know this chief executive officer wants to know what everything's happening, right? Instead of having meetings every single day about different things and hoping and waiting for reports to be generated. Instead, what if the reports were generated in real time? Propose a thought leadership scenario. What I mean by that is what we're just talking about, right? You're talking about, hey, I've got an idea. I can help you solve X, Y, Z, PDQ, and I can get all of your departments collaborating, and Mr. CEO, this is fantastic. Now imagine going back to the IT person who brought you in for that proposal. By the time you finish with all the different departments, they're the ones calling the IT person saying, why haven't you hired them yet? They're going to help us. But what this all does, positioning the idea, thought leadership scenario, what this does is it helps you understand that price is no longer the driver in your business. Okay, it's no longer a commodity because you're not selling You're not selling a product, you're selling an idea, you're selling a thought. You're selling something that's going to help people be more productive, they can be able to collaborate, reduce overall expenses, increase revenue, and CEO's point, have a command of his business. And then what you want to also position yourself is to be a problem solver through analytics. That's what you want to do, and that's how you use Power BI, or that's how you sell, Power BI. And many different people do it in many different ways. I want to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not the end all or understand exactly how to do it, but this is an idea that you could possibly utilize when you're out there, when you're talking to customers. Be excited about this stuff. This is amazing stuff. Be excited. Talk about this in an exciting way, because people like excitement, right? And your customers will like to see how excited you are about it. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate your time today checking this out. So, every Monday we have our project LeadGen call. We're going through Azure, and hopefully you learned about Power BI. You learned about how to sell Power BI, the partner profitability. You learned about sales tactics 101, and then you also learned about how do we sell Power BI, and that's great. So every week we do this. Our next week's call is we're talking about access management. Right, security, two-factor authentication within Azure, within a hybrid cloud scenario, and it's going to be fantastic. Same thing. I think we have a different type of thought leadership, sales thoughts at the end of next week's episode. So. If you're interested in MCC and Project LeadGen, that's a 5-part series where we're going to train you how to utilize this selling to many techniques that we talked about, utilizing seminar selling, but utilizing seminar selling and solving the biggest problem that we have with seminar selling, and that's attendance, bringing people to your event, right? Bringing people to that, and we're going to help you with that. So go to Project LeadGen. There's a link to it. Download all the resources. Get involved. We want to be there to help you out. Next is the planner that we ask you to download with your Project LeadGen downloadable, so we can figure out where you're at with this whole thing, so we can help you out, because we do provide resources for you to do that. Lastly, my email is here, scrancer@microsoft.com. You can call me on my cell. I can't put my cell there, 949-680-6671, or call me on my business line, most preferably 949-475-3214. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate it. Had a good time talking about this. Call me if you need anything. I'm here to help. Thanks again for all of your listening, and have a great day.